We're here, we're queer, and we love the Lord. That's right, you're listening to Coming Out Christian, a podcast about life at the intersection of queer identity and Christian faith. This fun, faithful, and sometimes irreverent podcast is a production of Love Boldly, an Ohio-based nonprofit creating spaces where LGBTQIA+ people can flourish in Christianity. I'm one of your hosts, Siobhan Boyd Nelson, and my co-host is the Reverend Dr. Ben Hillscamp, Executive Director of Love Boldly. So join us, and let's find out who's coming out today. Well, hello there, Ben.
Hello, Siobhan. How are you?
I am doing wonderfully. How are you?
Oh, I am doing very well, thank you.
Can you believe it's the end of the summer
I
already?
know,
It is
right?
back to school season. And also, wait a minute, it's September. It's the first episode of season 2. So hello
It
to
is.
everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coming Out Christian. We're so excited to be here for another season. But I really cannot believe that it is already the end of summer and back to school, though I am very excited that I am not buying school supplies. I did that part of my life. I paid that price. I am done with that, at least for now.
Yep. Same. I'm very happy that that I don't have to buy school supplies for anyone or myself, really. I just have to buy books.
Oh, because you are still in school. You're going back to school, Ben.
I, I am currently working on a Master of Theological Studies at Methodist Theological Seminary in Ohio, where our wonderful guest, who we'll introduce momentarily, is also a student. Um, but yes, I'm taking, after having taken almost a full year off for a few different reasons, I am starting back up with 2 classes this fall. When this episode in fact airs, I think I'll be in my second or third week of classes. So very exciting.
But you're not going to get school supplies. I mean, if you're still in school, Ben, and you're an adult and you have this opportunity to buy the school supplies that you could never convince your mom to buy, right? Because you had to get, no, we're not getting that folder. No, you can't have that Trapper Keeper. Yes, I showed my age once again, as I do on every episode. Is there any school supply or just desk supply that you like to have that helps you get the year started off nicely?
See, I was never into the like buy the you know certain school supply anyway.
Okay.
So, all I need is my highlighters, my post-it notes, and my, the pens that I like to write with.
Okay. You do
And,
have a
and
preferred pen.
I do have a preferred pen. I do have a preferred highlighter. Yes.
Okay.
So I am particular there.
All
Definitely.
right. All right. So as long as you're stocked up on your pen and your highlighter, you're good to go.
Indeed.
All right. Well, best of luck to everyone that is headed back to school. Best of luck for a wonderful school year. Best of luck to you, Ben, and to our guest, who it is time to introduce. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this conversation. It's been a long time in the making. Today, we have with us the Reverend Dr. Charles L.A. Watterson, who is a Black, queer, mystic, humanist, liberationist, theologian, preacher, educator, vocalist, and sacred storyteller. With over 2 decades in ministry, education, and community care, they currently serve as the administrator for the Midwest region of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, associate pastor of Rivers of Living Water Ministries UCC, as an associate chaplain for OhioHealth, and an authorized minister of the United Church of Christ. Their work weaves together Black liberation theology, womanist ethics, and queer spirituality, centering the voices of the marginalized while reimagining faith, justice, and community healing. Dr. Watterson is also a trained vocalist with professional credits that range from Florence and the Machine to gospel and symphonic performances, and is currently pursuing a Master of Divinity in Spirituality, Theology, and Ethics. Dr. Watterson, affectionately known as PC, is the co-parent of 3 adult children and 2 fur babies with his spouse, Reverend Lucian Washington. Thank you so much for being here and joining us today, Reverend Dr. Charles. So good to see you.
It is so good to be seen and not viewed. I was listening to you and I said, wait a minute. I said, that's me? Yes, that's me.
That is you. That is you.
I am so glad to be with you all um, on this day that I've never seen before, that we have never seen before, and so grateful to be amongst people, humanity that is filled with love, filled with joy, and filled with pride.
There we go. Yes, love, joy, and pride, those three things. So, we are going to start you off with the first question that we ask all of our guests. What is your testimony? What is your story at the intersection of queer identity and Christian faith?
Yeah, so when you asked that question, I really had to think about what is my testimony, especially when it pertains to those intersectionalities. And it allowed me to really visit with my whole self. And in visiting with my whole self, I had to really think through this. And so I'll give it a shot. But
Okay.
part of who I am is a part of an evolutionary person. So I'm always evolving. And I'll tell you where my testimony has landed me now.
Okay.
So I was born into the church, not in the pews, but in the rhythms of prayer, of songs, and of survival that lived in my family and in my community. My earliest sense of the divine came not from doctrines, not from church buildings, but from very much presence. The sound of my mother and my grandmother and my oldest aunt in the kitchen, the watchful care of my parents who raised other people's children in community, the way spirit showed up in laughter, whether it showed up in laughter, where spirit showed up in grief, and sometimes when spirit showed up even in silence. And as I grew, I learned when I entered into the church that the church taught me that God is love. But I also learned very quickly that the same God that is love could also be the place where love was policed for me, where Black queer bodies like mine and many marginalized communities were told we did not belong. And if we did stay and if we did work, we had to keep our mouths shut. We were taught to shrink and to hide and to straighten our wrists and my wrist in particular, to silence my truth. And for years, I lived split in two, faithful, but yet fearful, anointed, but yet ashamed. And yet the divine still never left me. Even when the church called me disqualified, spirit whispered otherwise, said that you are mine, you are my beloved, you are fearfully and you're wonderfully made. The Christ I came to know reached beyond Christian tradition and was not the Christ of exclusion as I was taught, but the Christ of inclusion and expansiveness. The Jesus that was more than a savior to me was a Palestinian Jew who was a mystic prophet, who broke bread with outcasts, who touched the untouchable, who declared that the kingdom belonged to the least of these. And today, I name myself as a Black queer mystic, humanist, liberationist, humanly divine and divinely human. And I believe that the divine is not confined to temples or texts, but pulses in the soil. God's pulse is in the river. God's pulse is in the breath. God's pulse is in the struggle. God's pulse is in the embrace. God's pulse is in the silence. And God's pulse is also in community. To be human fully and freely is already to carry divinity. My queerness does not take away from me my divinity. It actually draws me deeper into the divine mystery and the work of justice. And I want to be very clear. I also carry the prayers of my ancestors who survived chains and they survived the borders and they survived silence and even being ripped from levels of royalty and honor within creation. Their survival is my testimony to, a reminder that I'm never alone. Their resilience is in my bloodstream, and their songs are in my spirit, and their faith has become my freedom. So, my testimony is really this: I am still here. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And as a future ancestor, I will leave a legacy so that the future will know that I'm dreaming for them. Not in spite of my queerness, but because of it. Not outside of my faith, but as it is a center of my faith. Living at this intersectionality really has taught me that authenticity is worship, freedom is holy, justice is the heartbeat of the gospel, and our humanity, our body, our soul, our mind, and our spirit itself is divine. That is my testimony that I carry, and that's the testimony that I will continue to bring.
And that is absolutely beautiful. So, so beautiful. So many things in there resonated with my spirit. I want to ask you specifically because what hit me was the way that you refer to God's pulse being within the soil and the rivers and the air, and it brought to mind being surrounded by God's presence.
Yes.
And it made me think that you are a person who could not get out of God's presence if you wanted to.
Not if I
And what has that been like as
it.
you
Go ahead.
are as a black queer man who cannot escape from God's presence, and God's presence, God being love, God's presence being a holy place, and being a black queer man in America, and that very real reality there that can feel like two very different realities.
Yeah, thank you for that. One, I would name that it has been a journey.
Mhm.
I haven't always been there. I have evolved to this place. I just actually left with graduate students and being a writing mentor with them. And as I was leaving from class, one of the students said to me, said, "Can I steal something that you said today?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Before you even tell me," I said, "but I'm going to give you permission already." I said, "Tell me." She said, "You said to us as you were speaking, I bring into the room." And I said, "Yes, I bring into the room." I said to my students today that I bring into the room my ancestors. I bring into the room my queerness. I bring into the room my blackness. I bring into the room my humanity and my divinity. I bring into the room my children. I bring into the room my future. I bring into the room, even when I cross over into the ancestral land, I bring that same spirit with me. As I know God to be, the divine to be, beyond, that goes beyond the text, that goes beyond doctrine, that goes beyond dogma, that goes beyond separation, that goes beyond the limitations that my siblings in humanity have put on individuals that particularly would represent disenfranchised or marginalized communities.
Hmm.
And I bring that into the conversation because it's so necessary that in a time that we are living in right now, where we are trying to be erased, where we're trying to be annihilated, when we are trying to be a genocide right before our eyes, and an erase of not only body, but also of history, of her story, and everything that has brought us, those that have been marginalized, to the place of pride
Yeah.
now. That for me, it is necessary that I walk in confidence, that I
Mm.
walk in certainty, even in an unstable land. Now, I'm not going to say that I don't get tired, because that's also divinity
Right.
for me to know when to rest.
Okay.
It, for me, I'm not going to say that I'm without moments of isolation and depression, because that is also divine to let me know that something is off with my nervous system, or possibly the surrounding pieces that are around me. So for me, I say that God is in the pulse, because my reality is that we have been taught doctrine that has said that the only way that you find God is through humanity, as all of us are parents or partners of fur babies.
Yes.
There's been a time that we've been taught, even inside of church institution and faith-based institution, that animals don't have souls, that animals don't have spirits, and let alone there used to be conversations that animals sometimes didn't even have little mind brains, that did not articulate or even think. And I beg to differ. When I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at my animals, or when I see that they're sick, or when they see that I'm sick, or they see that I'm not feeling good, I see the very presence in not only their body, but also in their eyes, in their touch, in their caress, in their bark to let me know when danger is present. When I
Hmm.
go to the river, I realize that according to the book of Genesis, if we are to follow the Christian tradition, that God's God did not just have a conversation with God's self, but God also involved planet Earth, Mother Earth,
Hmm.
forming humanity. So if that be the case, then that says to us that there was also an interconnection, an interwovenness, and an intimacy with Mother Earth, as well as the spirit. And if the spirit made the Mother Earth, see, and that's me. I'm very philosophical. I'm very theological. I'm going to go there. I'm an educator with almost 30 years of experience. And for me, then it suggests to me that how can I walk the earth? How
Hmm.
can I connect with living beings of all type and then deny them of their divinity, deny them of their spirit? So when I walk in the grass, when I need a moment to settle myself, I look for God.
Yeah.
When I get even in technology, I look for God. When I'm walking and I hear bark and I hear my babies, I look for God.
Hmm.
When I'm looking at the river, I'm looking for God. And not only am I looking for God, I know that God, the God of my understanding, is very much present. And it brings me rest. It brings me peace. It brings me silence. It brings me hope. And it brings me restoration, renewal, refreshing, and sometimes simply just love
Yeah.
in a broken world that we are still in.
Right. What you are describing reminds me of Alice Walker's The Color Purple. And that moment when they're walking through the field of purple, and she said it must piss God off for people to stand in the field of purple and not notice it. And I've taken that to heart, and it has
Yes,
actually been part of my worship practice to pause and notice creation
yes,
and notice that God took the time to create this tree. God took the time to create this dandelion. And it has, like you said, it is solace because
yes,
so often what we're fed every day is bad things are happening and there's not much we can do about it, and people are mean and no one loves each other or treats anyone well anymore. And if you stop and you look around you and you notice it, you are immediately surrounded with the evidence of God's love via creation. And yes, that is comfort on those really tough days.
yeah. It makes me think about there is scripture that talks about the cloud of witnesses.
Hmm.
And so for us, we think about the ancestors, we think about those that have gone before us. Many of us don't even really think about the ancestors. What we do is we think about those that are in the biblical text, and we say, Abraham's one of the cloud of witnesses. But I beg to differ. My mother is an ancestor.
Hmm.
She is definitely a cloud of witness. My father is a part of the cloud of witness. My grandparents, my great grandparents, those that have fought, those from the beginning of time. They all sit there. But I also recognize that the earth is a witness.
Oh,
It's a witness to the glory of God. So sometimes we look for aesthetic stuff and we look for outside remedies. We go into our mind. But if we actually got and pay attention to nature,
mm,
if we actually paid attention to living beings and see how they operate, then we would actually see the witness of God's glory. And some of the things that we fight about, some of the things that we wrestle with, some of the things that we try to have dominion or control over,
right.
we will understand, just like scripture says, that if God feeds the sparrow, don't you think that God would also feed you?
Yes.
So when my money looks a little strange, and my bank account looks not doing what, I remind myself, God, you have taken care of the sparrow. You have taken care. So surely you have not forgotten me.
Yes.
And David says it like this. He says, I was once young and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor the seed begging for bread. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, whether I have been homeless in my life, I have gone through troubled times in my life, but I have never seen God forsake me.
Mm.
Now, humanity may, but God has been a very present help, been a very presence in my life from beginning to where I'm at right now.
That is absolutely beautiful. I want to talk more about your ministry, your education, and the idea of being a vocalist. Now, have you been a vocalist in the church? I wanted.
I've been, yeah, so I've been a vocalist in the church. I've had the opportunity to record several times. I've had the opportunity to travel internationally. I've sung with some excellent singers, as I would
Yes.
call them. I've been professionally trained. That was part of my undergrad. My focus in undergrad was I have 5 degrees. Degrees. I have a bachelor's degree. I have 3 master's degrees as they're on my wall, and then I have my doctorate degree. Now pursuing a master's degree and thinking about a PhD. I'm one of
Okay.
those.
Oh, wow.
I'm and I'm one of those for several reasons. Not only because I love knowledge, not only because I love education, but also too, I am stepping in my home, in my community. I was born and reared in Brooklyn, East New York, um, in New York, in
Mm,
the project. My mother comes from. They migrated during the Great Migration in the 1960s from the South to New York, and my father, who was born in New York, but family is from Dayton, Ohio, as well as Tennessee, some Native American reservations as well as Jamaica. And when they got together and they had me, what I did notice is that there was a gap within my family growing up as far as education,
mm,
and because of life and because of the systematic injustices that occur in this world. And I knew that the spirit had spirit's hand on me for quite some time as a youngster. And I made some decisions that I was going to go to school, not only for myself, but for my community, my family at large, and letting them know and wanting to be a witness, let
mm.
them know that if I could do it, you can do it. And I'm glad to say that everyone, my husband, went back to school, uh, has his bachelor's degree in social work, went to go get his master's in social work as well as pursuing a master's divinity right now. All 3 of our children. Um, I have 2 college graduates. I have one that is right now in her last year as a senior, as an undergrad in fine arts. I have cousins. I have uncles and aunts that have gone back to school. I have my younger siblings that have gone back to school, and it's important for me, um, and I will tell you honestly, that has also been a part of my faith journey. It
Okay.
has been not only a part of my faith journey, but it has opened me up to understanding God, understanding Christendom, not being afraid of this world, not being afraid of who I
Mm,
am. I've hid behind my education for a long time, and put my vocals out there because I have the ability of singing full voice in not all, in all sections,
mhm.
soprano, alto, and tenor. I will be known as a countertenor. Have had the chance to sing with some of the best. I am on the credits for Florence Welch and the Machines for the MTV Unplugged edition. And have traveled with some of the who's in the gospel industry and secular that I don't like to say, but that's how the church says it,
That's
the
how the church.
secular
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
Right, that's how the church says it. You
Right,
know, I
right.
love all genres of music. And actually took a break for a while, but I'm actually in the midst of working on a music project as we speak.
Okay. So I brought that up because Ben and I had this conversation months and months ago where I said, Ben, have you seen Sinners? And I really wanted him. I was like, oh my gosh, because when I saw the movie, um, it was. I mean, I think it hit everybody. Kind of like a ton of bricks in the best way possible. I don't know that any of us were quite ready for all that that movie had to say. But I wanted to speak to someone who specifically was a musician, was closely tied to the church, and could speak to that relationship between music and the church, and that divide that is often there, as you said, as the church calls it, secular music. And that divide right there along those music lines. And then the fact that queer folks so often end up right there in the music, that space too. In my mind, that's not by accident.
No, no. You know, I'm very adamant in saying that if queer people were not in the church, you would not have a church.
Well,
Let's start there,
well.
because we hold the arts, we hold the word,
Mm-hmm.
we hold it. We hold it. It's etched. It's in our DNA, and I know that it's not by happenstance. I believe that it is divine. It is divine. It's a divine orchestration to be not only a symphony to the divine's ear and to our humanity, but I believe that it's also there to be a disruptor,
Mm-hmm.
to let us know that we cannot continue to gatekeep musicians in particular, and I'm going to stick in my lane right now as a musician, a lyricist, that you can't gatekeep. In other words, you can't continue to gatekeep, which we've been gatekeep for so long. In other words, we'll lead the praise and worship. We'll be on the devotional team. We'll be in the choir. We will sing backup. We will do all of that. But of course, it's also the don't ask, don't tell policy. You
Right,
know,
right.
along with people, especially within the traditional setting of churches, which generally will be evangelical fundamental churches that will turn around and say, okay, as long as you don't show up fully,
Mm-hmm.
I'll utilize your voice, I'll utilize your instrument. But for me, it was impossible to continue down that road because it's not, it's not, first of all, I wake up, I go to sleep with a social construct of Black.
Yes.
And whereas it's more popular within the music industry to see one of my white siblings sing and be a countertenor, it is not always honorable to be a countertenor and be a Black male.
Okay.
One, because there are stereotypes that speak to the fact that one, you are supposed to be a heterosexual male, and males don't sing high. So if you're going to sing, sometimes male don't sing at all. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first question. And then if you do sing, you're definitely going to sing baritone. You're going to either sing baritone, you're going to sing bass, you're going to sing tenor. Stay in your lane. But then you will see my female identified individuals that would be able to sing in all parts. But for us, that was a big no. You had to be a person that was set up to take care of your family. You definitely was not going to sing. But for me, it was music. For me, was a way of escape.
Okay.
It was a way of escape. It was a way of worship.
Mm-hmm.
It was a way of freedom when all hell was breaking loose. If I say it very plainly,
Yeah.
when you walk through the streets and you're not sure whether you're going to make it home, and it's not because of Black on Black crime, it's because of systemic institutions that have injustices
Right.
that are present, especially living in the urban area or living in a rural area. So for me, it has been a safety net. It has been a place not only to divide, and I actually love the movie Sinners. And one of the main
Mm-hmm.
character, Miles Kenton, actually is the son of a gospel artist, a gospel singer, Timothy Figueroa, and Pastor Timothy Figueroa. Her pastor, which is her father and her mother, come from the same church that I was reared in, which was Institutional Church of God in Christ in Brooklyn, New York,
Wow.
17 Delphi Street. We always had to say the full government. We always had to say the full government when you said that church name, and to see the work not only that he did, but the message that was being brought across. That for me, there are certain sounds that comes from my DNA. The sound of the drum comes from my DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Sound of music comes from my DNA. It can be duplicated, but it can never be the original. The original comes from a place of victory. It comes from a place of triumph, and it comes from a place of pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you cannot speak another person's pain unless you actually been through it. You can imitate it, but you will never be able, as we would say it in the church, the anointing.
Right.
The anointing that's on it is because of the fact of when people say it's the worship, it's the spending time with the Lord, that in actuality is a little bit deeper. It's the spending time with the Lord or spending time with the Spirit, because after everything that I've been through, God, if you can hold me, if you can keep me, if you can be in the black church and in the black persuasion, you would say, my God has been a doctor in the sick room. He's been a lawyer in the
Courtroom,
courtroom.
yes.
So that's black terminologies when we didn't have no medical coverage or we couldn't enter into the places. So we had to rely on what our ancestors taught us that was continually whitewashed away from us,
Hmm.
which was lose the grip of understanding how to put your hands in the soil and bring forth. And but yet also too within our vocal cords, it was the God, if you don't make a way out of no way, if you don't bring me through this. And when we got the witness that God was going to do it, oh, it was not only time to sing through the pain, but we're going to sing through the triumph.
Yeah.
And that's what some of the things that we notice also within that movie, The Sinners, that it can be duplicated, but certain things belong to certain people because of the lived experience.
Right. Right.
And I sound very womanist like Alice Walker, but it lives in my bones.
Yes. And I see Ben over here. Ben, you were nodding so much about the music, and especially was it about the type of voice, the countertenor? Do you have an experience with that?
Well, I mean that around men singing higher parts in general definitely exists that for lack of a better word that the very macho idea um, really I would argue across many racial bounds. It looks different in different racial or
Yes.
ethnic or other or even traditional communities in the sense of what one might be able to do as a Catholic versus a Pentecostal versus an Episcopalian, etc. And that definitely was true of part of my story as well. While I'm not classically trained, I grew up singing in church.
Hmm.
I sang in church choirs in college, and that's been a huge part of my life. So yeah, I was nodding through that because so much of it resonates with my own story in the church as someone who sang tenor, who never really could do the whole counter tenor thing, but tried. And just the what one had to do to negotiate some of those positions.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that I always find very interesting when we and I recognize this comparison is fraught with a lot of problems, but when we attempt to compare the white church experience to the black church experience,
Yes.
because there is an acceptance, at least in a very generalized overview, of black men being able to be in a choir, able to be more artistic, perhaps is the word,
Yes.
while also still being thought as heterosexual.
Yes.
Whereas, in my experience at least, and I'm very much talking about my own experience, you know, if you wanted to if you wanted to be a fairly good tenor in a Catholic choir, you needed to explain why it was that you weren't, checking the little boxes of masculinity.
Ooh.
And one of the ways, as Siobhan, I've said this before, that one could check that is by saying, "Oh, I want to be a priest." And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, you could decorate the church, you could arrange flowers, you could sing tenor,
Oh.
you could dance in church. It didn't matter because now the folks that were gatekeeping that masculinity, that very toxic masculinity, were like, well, he wants to be a priest, so it's okay. But
Yes.
without that piece, without that he wants to be a priest, it was, why are you not playing football? Why are you doing these things that we consider less than manly?
Wow. Ben, today I learned because you just connected multiple dots in my head where I have seen either in books or in TV or in movies these kind of stereotypes of priests being effeminate or they're being, like different things. And I always wondered about that. And I had no lived experience basis for understanding that, which is why I love having these conversations with Ben. You teach me so much. Okay. Oh, dots connected.
And again, and I want to just, I feel it's needed to also acknowledge the fact that what we just said is, or at least what I just said, is very generalized. zeitgeist.
Right, but I think it's something that is out there in the zeitgeist, because I have definitely seen references to it and had no idea what the basis was. But
Yeah.
the idea that going into the priesthood kind of gives you a pass, a masculinity pass, so that you can then behave in non-masculine ways in other areas of your life. I mean, it just makes so much sense. It adds up.
Yeah, and if I can jump in right here, thinking from the Black church experience, if you were in the choir and if you were a male, first of all, you wasn't generally going to be singing in the alto section and not singing in the soprano section. Because if you were singing the soprano and alto section, and even if you did have a high voice, you were getting pushed into the tenor section because that's the place where girls live,
Hmm.
soprano, alto. And if you could, I was a little kid hitting Mariah Carey whistle notes, and so that was an anomaly for them. So of course they used me,
Yes.
but then and I'm going to be very clear, they used me because of the purpose, because they had a purpose. But then at the end of the day, they still moved it back over. Okay, now make sure you got your tenor part. And if you were in the choir, you were taught how to hold your hands, you were taught how to clap, you were taught how to move. Certain gestures you did not give, and all of the different foolishness that went along, all of the different gatekeeping that took place. So for me, it was always an issue, always an issue. And for me growing up in my household, um, church music may have come on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, we would listen to everybody. We would listen to jazz. We would listen to classical. We would listen to downright funk. We would listen to R&B. We would listen to soul music. We would listen to everything that you can think that we can listen to. Some of the stuff that I didn't realize we were listening to, and I inherited my parents' 45s and album covers and albums and stuff like that. Some of the music I didn't even realize that some of the individuals were not black. They were of different nationalities, different ethnicities, different races. But I didn't know at the time. For me, if music came on and I loved it, I was singing.
Okay.
It may have drove some of my family members crazy, but I was singing. And to this day, I'm still that person. When a song comes on, forget about it.
Oh my goodness. So tell me then, because we've gotten such a thank you so much for sharing so much about your life and your experiences growing up in the church and being a musician. What is it like today? Because now you're an associate pastor. Did I get that title right?
Yeah.
Um, what what kind of space are you creating today, knowing all these things from your life, having lived those experiences and evolving to the place where you are now? What is what kind of space are you creating or attempting to create in that church?
For me, one, creating a brave space
Hmm.
so that we can have brave conversations. And the reason why I say that is because what I do know is that within congregations, it's easy for the preacher to get up and just preach a sermon, keep it cute, keep it moving.
Yeah.
But getting to know humanity, getting sitting down and having connections, having communication, having sitting in community, you will find out that there are many people they have trauma, they have PTSD, so they don't bring themselves fully to the church. They don't bring themselves always fully to themselves. So taking time for me is not being so much an example, but living life out fully.
Hmm.
And when I live out life fully, I'm bringing, if I like this song, give me E flat. I'm going to sing it.
Okay.
And E flat would have me singing my favorite artist of all times, and I've gotten to sing on the stage with her twice. It's Patti LaBelle.
Oh wow.
Um, I've sung with her just this past summer. Her people invited me on the stage, and I closed out a segment for her. So if I'm singing that high, I'm singing that high.
Hmm.
If I decide that I want to sing that low, I sing that low. If I decide that I want to wear earrings, I'm going to wear earrings. I'm going to be fully coming out Christian. For me, looks very different now than it was before. For me, it is showing up fully. That means I'm showing up fully not to please anyone, but to be pleasing to myself, and then pleasing to the God of my understanding. I understand that we don't always fully love people because we don't really get a chance to really love ourselves. So I bring love to the conversation. I love everything about me. I love my good place. I love my bad place. I love my indifferent place. I love that I'm a Sagittarius at heart. So for those that know Sagittarius, we can be and then we can be. And I'll leave it like that.
Wait a minute, because this is an audio podcast now. You
Right,
one
exactly.
side you can be.
Right. We
It's
could be one
okay.
side and then we could be another
Okay,
side,
got it.
right?
Just want to make sure everybody got the
Exactly.
full thing. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. But we are fully ourselves. And I bring all of me to the conversation. And I invite those that are in congregations, in community, bring yourself. Bring yourself. And guess what? No one has the right to gatekeep you. Nobody has the right to have control over you. Nobody has the right to have dominion over you. What I always bring to the table is let me help walk you through
Mm,
and walk with, not direct you.
okay.
We have enough people that have been directing and they have not been directing good. I need to let me accompany you on your journey, and however I can be of help, that's what I want to be of help. Whether it is your best version of yourself, whether it is you just being you, wherever you are at on life's journey, it is more than enough for you to be present. And that's what I bring to as a pastor. That's who I want to be. I love the fact that I love my husband out openly.
Hmm.
I love my children out openly. I don't hold back and I don't drop his hand when I'm in the presence of someone that may not understand as I hold it actually tight. So I bring that braveness, I bring that safety, and that everything in which I'm doing is not the absolute. It's just giving chance for us to come to the table, come to the room, come to the space, and evolve together.
That's beautiful. That sounds absolutely amazing. Um, I could talk to you all day, Reverend Charles. Just know that.
You.
But I won't take up too much. We won't take up too much more of your time. Ben, do you have any more questions for Reverend Charles?
I mean, I'm sure I could come up with things, but um, as we have well found, I defer to you, Siobhan.
No worries, no worries. That sounds just like a beautiful place to end there. That you are a leader who is seeking to evolve with the people that you are
Yes.
leading, and what a
Yep.
beautiful type of leader to be. All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing yourself with us, your whole self. It has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. We
It has been a pleasure.
we are going to move into our set or two segments to close out the show. The first one is the query of the day. In today's query of the day, we're going to go back to the beginning of the episode and going back to school. But here's my question for you. What do you like better, the first day of school or the last day of school? And the reason I'm asking this question is because we do possibly have three nerds here. Look, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm a nerd.
Wait. We don't possibly have three nerds here. We have three nerds
Okay,
here.
I
Exactly,
was
nerd.
going to say the 5 degrees made me feel as though I could be at with that term. Okay, so that's why I'm raising it, particularly for this group. What is your favorite day of school, first day or last day? Charles, let's start with you.
Absolutely the first day.
Okay,
The first day for me is always the best. Now, as a teacher, sometimes it's the last day, but as a student, it is always the first
I
day.
love it. I
Always.
love it, Ben.
See, I think for me, it's also the first day because the first day has a lot of hope. It has a lot of potential. Like, here are all the really cool things we're going to do this semester. Here's all the places we might have some amazing conversation. Um, there's just that wonderful feeling of I'm going to learn. It's going to be great, which it may or may not be. But at the end of the day, there's potential. There's hope. It's good. Everyone feels good. Um, but yeah, I like the first day.
Well, it's going to be a trifecta here. I am also a first day girly. Also, first day has an outfit. Come on, first day outfit. Let's get it together. First day's got photos, right? You're seeing
Yes.
people you haven't seen all summer. You got to catch up. You got to get filled in. I mean, and it's an extrovert's dream. I'm going to tell you right. First day is an extrovert's dream. So go ahead, uh, join us on Instagram. Let us know what your favorite is, either the first day or the last day. Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, and I just want to throw out there for particularly for anyone who might be listening who's in their last year of a degree
Mm,
that assuming everything's good to go, they will graduate in May or June or whenever their program ends. I just want to say when you're taking your first day of school shots, please, and I say this as someone who has 3 degrees and is going back for a master's. I'm not at Dr. Charles's level yet, but I'm getting there.
You get there.
Don't put up the sign that's like, you know, 23rd grade and none, never more. I will never go back. This is the last year. I have said that this is the last year at least
okay.
twice and have blown past those. So you don't know. You might go back.
Okay.
Someday you might do that second or third master's or second doctorate or whatever.
So don't set yourself up to eat your words later.
Exactly.
Got it. All right. You
That's
heard
right.
it here from from Dr. Ben. All right. So, like I said, join us on Instagram. Let us know first day or last day, which one is your favorite. And now it's time for our moment in queer Christian history. This is our reminder that not only have we always been here, we've always been here in the church.
So I was going to do a little bit of an extended moment in queer Christian history, talking about um, the really talking about where we got about music and the fact that queer people have really, in most church traditions, have really you know kind of propped up choirs and music and whatnot. But I think we had such a great discussion of that I actually want to go very, very much to the present. Um, right now, the Roman Catholic Church is holding one of their Jubilee or Holy Years that has a lot of meaning for that tradition. And one thing that they did just yesterday, or just on September 6th, is they set aside a day dedicated for Christian and Catholic, or Christian in general and Catholic specifically, LGBTQIA plus pastoral groups. So queer Bible studies, queer groups of Catholics, etc. And really set aside this day to honor those groups. It is, as far as I'm aware, the first time that this has happened on a international, the Vatican did it sort of level, and really shows, while the Catholic Church does tend to move about 100 years at a time, um, nevertheless shows an increased openness to working with, in a positive way, the LGBTQIA plus community in the Catholic Church.
Wow, I did not realize that, Ben. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really cool. A snail's
Cool.
pace is still a pace. It is still moving in the right direction. So we're going to continue to be hopeful. How about that? All right, folks, that brings us to the end of another episode. I want to say a huge thank you once again to our amazing guest, the Reverend Dr. Charles Watterson. Is there anything that you would like to share, promote, social media accounts, events, anything that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, thank you both for having me again. What I would love to share with everyone is that if you are interested in walking on this journey, and if you're interested with being in community, there is a wonderful community named and called the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, led by Bishop Yvette Flunder. You can find us on radicallyinclusive.org. And if you would love to connect with me, feel free to hit me up on Instagram. You can find me at the Dr. Charles L.A. Watterson. I look forward to meeting everyone in social media land, on podcast land, and in life, and continue to love, continue to be present, continue to live, and continue to have joy. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
And then you can actually find Love Boldly at an upcoming event. It is called Queering the Message, Mitigating the Violence Through Intentional and Strategic Communication. Ben, when will that be taking place?
So that'll be happening just this week on Thursday, September the 11th from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a lovely queer happy hour to follow in person at Stonewall Columbus. And you can find more information about that on our on the Love Boldly website, loveboldly.net, under events.
Amazing. Please come. This sounds like an amazing thing that we can use right now. How timely of a topic. So please, please, please come out, join us, say hello, join us at the happy hour. If you're a listener, let us know. Stop by to say hi. Maybe we'll bring some Coming Out Christian stickers with us and some other swag with us. So if you're there, please stop by, say hi, and listen next week. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. Let them in on this joy and love and hope that we got going on here. And we will see you next time on Coming Out Christian.
Thank you for listening to Coming Out Christian with Siobhan Boyd Nelson and me, Ben Hillscamp. Do you want to see content like this continue to be produced? Then please support Love Boldly with a donation and consider becoming a monthly donor. You can donate online at www.loveboldly.net/donate. Join us next time as we continue to engage with people who proudly say that we're here, we're queer, and we love the Lord. And we're not going anywhere.